According to Irish ghost hunter Elliott O'Donnell, Canada is a much haunted country. One account of a Canadian haunting was given to him by a French Canadian named Bertram Armand. Though born and educated in Canada, he had served in Algeria in the French Foreign Legion. Retired, he returned to Canada, where the following event occurred. My home, he told O'Donnell, was in a small town called Garvois, southwest of Winnipeg. I had got out of the train at Winnipeg and dined at a hotel before setting out on my long tramp. "If you take my advice, sir," the landlord said, "you will avoid the wood of Garvois after dark." "Why?" I asked. "Because, sir," he responded, "because it bears an evil reputation." "An evil reputation?" I laughed. "I have been away for 10 years, and I'm dying to see my father. He is the only relative I have, so I want to go by the quickest route, and the road through the wood is quickest, right?" The landlord shrugged his shoulders. "Yes," he said, "the road over the plain is longer, but monsieur, if you go by the wood, you may never reach home at all." "I will risk it," I laughed, and putting my pack on my back, I stepped out onto the broad brown track leading to Garvois. Within an hour of my departure, the weather took a sudden turn for the worse, and the rain came down in torrents, the rain turning the trail into a swamp that was becoming dangerous. I trudged on, and was soon ankle-deep in mud. But at last I reached the forest. I'm not the nervous type, but the relative silence disturbed me. It seemed an assumed silence, and the prelude to something hostile. In the gloom, the trees had strange shapes, and I saw lights too, all kinds of colored lights. I fancied I heard steps behind me. I paused and looked over my shoulder, but nothing, only the gloom. I continued to advance, however, and was finally brought to a halt by a stone wall about 4 feet in height. I was wondering what to do next, when a female voice suddenly called out, "Keep along by the wall, and I will meet you at the gate." Well, naturally I obeyed. A few yards beyond stood the muffled-up figure of a woman. In a few words, I explained I had lost my way and needed a place to rest. "I don't mind sleeping anywhere," I said, "so long as it is dry. An attic, barn, anything will do." "I think I can offer you something better than that," she said, and led me along a narrow, winding path to a large, low, rakish-looking house. Inside, there was a rush of strange, musty air and darkness. "I must apologize for the absence of light," the woman said. "If we had been expecting you, it would have been different. If you follow me, I will take you to your room." I tried to see her face, but was frustrated by the way she held the lantern. Nor could I see my surroundings, but I had the curious feeling that I had been there before. We ascended a staircase, then stepped down a corridor, finally halting before a half-open doorway. "This is your room," she said. "You may, if you like, open the windows. We have been obliged to keep them closed owing to the damp. Good night." She turned to go, and I saw her face. It was exquisite, my wildest dreams of feminine beauty. Who was she? I kept asking myself that question long after she had left me, and the echoes of her high-heeled shoes along the passage and down the stairs had ceased. Who was she? Indeed, I was so obsessed with her that I paid no heed to my strange situation. I undressed where I was and then, making a guess at the direction of the bed, walked cautiously forward until I collided with the bedstead, a large brass one. It was but the work of a moment to throw back the sheets, and then, with my mind full of visions of my newly found goddess, I sank into a deep, refreshing sleep. I woke with a start to find the room illuminated by a red glow from the stove, now full of lurid logs. I rubbed my eyes, but even as I did, I caught the sound of approaching footsteps, the sharp rat-a-tat-tat of high-heeled shoes. Nearer they came, right up to the entrance of my room, when, to my astonishment, the door gently opened, and in tiptoed my beautiful host. In one hand she carried a long-handled iron spoon, and in the other a candle. I was entranced. Never had I seen such a wealth of rich golden hair, such red lips, such lovely china blue eyes, and such a heavenly figure. She was a goddess, at least my idea of one. What did she want? I sat up in bed and was about to speak when she laid a finger on her lips and bade me be silent. She then went to the grate and, taking from her pocket a small lump of lead, carefully put it onto the spoon, which she balanced with the utmost care over the fire. I suddenly became conscious of someone close to me, and glancing around, saw, lying by my side, an old man with long grizzled hair and beard, whose features were vaguely familiar. He was sound asleep, his breathing loud and raucous. Looking up, I saw the girl flash me a look of subtle warning. "Don't wake him, whatever you do," her eyes said. "He must sleep on." Cautiously, the girl lifted the spoon from the fire, bore it steadily to the bed, and gaily motioning me to keep quiet, she gently turned the sleeper's head over on the pillow, and with a dexterous movement of her clever, subtle fingers, poured the hissing lead into his ear. There was an agonizing scream. The eyes of the old man opened convulsively, and in that moment I recognized my father. Almost simultaneously came a loud crash, blinding darkness, and I was once again, God knows how, in the darkened forest. At dawn, I finally reached Garvois. Arriving at the gate of my father's house, I found it padlocked, and there was a notice, "To be let or sold." I then staggered to the nearest house, the house of my old friend, Henry Crozier. Henry had just awakened, and shuffling downstairs, he opened the door. "Le diable!" he exclaimed. "It's Bertram! So you've come back!" "Come back to find the place empty. Tell me, where's my father?" "What?" he said. You don't know? My poor Bertram, your father is dead. He died a fortnight ago, the day after his marriage with Mademoiselle Marie Deville. Marie Deville, the niece of his last housekeeper." What killed him? Why, old age, of course. But the woman, what was she like? I stammered. Why, Henry said slowly, she was what some people would call beautiful, though as God is my judge, I did not admire her. Fair, very fair, blonde, painted lips, and big, very big eyes, china blue and smiling, eternally smiling. Such was Bertram's account of his strange experience. In answer to O'Donnell's questions, he said he had searched the wood thoroughly, but there was no house in it. Afterwards, having had his father's body secretly exhumed and finding lead in the ear, he had obtained an order for the arrest of his stepmother. She was, however, nowhere to be found, and he supposed that, having got wind of the affair, she had escaped out of the country. Bertram told his story with every appearance of sincerity, and O'Donnell had no doubt at all that it was true. All of it. True. The moral of the story: older people who marry much younger people, may regret having been led to the altar. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,022 subs in 2022 till midnight. And thank you, my dear listeners, for all your wonderful support in 2021, my dear precious listeners. Cheers! Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pixhere, that's PX here, while the music was the Icy Chill Ghost Story by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.